Now we're going to have a look at XJ Developer, which steps you through the setup process of checking the connections of JTAG and non-JTAG devices. Here you specify the netlist and bill of materials for your board. If you have more than one board, this is where you would define how they're connected together. You can also define connections within a board. In this case, we just need to define this one connection because it is not in the netlist. Next, you need to tell XJTAG which are the power and ground signals. In this instance, there is only one power net at 3.3 volts and one ground net. In the JTAG chain section, you need to specify a BSDL file for each of the JTAG devices on the XJ demo board and how they're connected. In this case, there are two devices, one Altera and one Xilinx. BSDL or Boundary Scan description files are usually freely available from the chip manufacturers. With the chain defined, you now have access to test both JTAG and non-JTAG devices on the board. Now you can tell the system how to check the connections on the non-JTAG devices, which you do in the Categorize Devices screen. You assign devices into a category until all of the devices are moved out of the unassigned devices list. For example, IC4 is an EEPROM which has been assigned to the 24LC32A XJE's test file, which was downloaded from the library on the XJTAG website. There are a large number of XJE's files available for download, but you can always create your own files using the library files as a template. Here, you would define any pins that need to remain in a constant state. None are needed for the XJ demo board. Once the setup has been completed, you can use the DFT analysis to check test coverage even before the boards have been produced or laid out. Early design for test information, plus the design verification that is part of the setup process, has saved many engineers from respinning their boards. The summary gives you a breakdown of the test coverage. When you have your board, you need to tell the system how it should be connected to the XJ-Link 2. In this screen, you define the pinout on your connector to match your board and the XJ-Link 2. In the XJ Runner setup screen, you define the tests you want to run on your board. The first test on the list to run is to check the chain integrity. Connection test is an inbuilt function that automatically checks the connections between your JTAG devices. The other XJ Runner tests are to check that non-JTAG devices in the netlist are present and functioning. Finally, you run the tests on your board and the results are displayed on the screen. Once the setup is complete, you can export your files for use with XJ Runner, which is designed to be used in a production or servicing environment. XJ Runner is a runtime system for running the tests produced by XJ Developer. The same tests you've used while designing and prototyping your boards can now be used in production. To save time, multiple boards can be tested simultaneously as a group by using multiple XJ links. Boards can also be tested independently and continuously by unplugging one board that's finished and plugging in a new one whilst tests are still running on your other XJ links. You can view board statistics and fault trend analysis. You can log the results for individual boards by serial number for traceability. XJ Runner comes with different levels of access depending on the user. This is to ensure that only authorized engineers are able to reconfigure the system. XJ Runner can be integrated with other test executives such as LabVIEW as well as ATE machines. XJTAG can save you time and money when developing hardware, debugging prototypes, and later in production. To find out more or to take a free trial, contact sales@xjtag.com.